Member of the Palmdale to Burbank project section team. My role is to do community outreach and engage and make sure our communities are informed of this very important project as we move along. What I'd like to do is explain our meeting tonight. We have a presentation to review where we are in the process for this project. So we will be reviewing with you what is high-speed rail. It's really a new technology that actually is new to this country but has been around for quite some time. Where we have been, we will explain specifically for Palmdale to Burbank section, that geographic section, what plans have been done over the years to get us to the point where we are today. We will conclude. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much for coming today. I really, really appreciate that. My team really appreciates your participation in this project. It is vitally important. This is a large infrastructure project that the state of California has undertaken, and it's vitally important that we have opportunities to talk about the project, to make sure that the community knows what's going on with the project, and to make sure that we can talk with the community and understand what your concerns are about the project. And I can assure you that your comments are heard, that we use what you tell us to inform what we know about your community, what is special and unique about your community, and the community character that you so value. And I absolutely appreciate the fact that you are basically giving us your time by coming to this meeting to hear these presentations and to talk with our staff and to give us comments basically to help us develop this project and this process. We can't fully understand your community without your input, and so we recognize that it takes time from your day to come help us, and we really, really appreciate that. So, what is high-speed rail? High-speed rail is a policy choice that the state of California has made to bring an all-electric, very fast train to the state of California. We're going to be building an 800-mile railroad for the state of California to help us move our people around the state better. California right now is the 7th largest economy in the world. In recent months, we passed Brazil. We were 8 a few months ago, and now we're 7, so that's great. Number 6 on the list, as I understand it, is the UK, so now we're aiming at moving up. One of the foundations, basically, of our economy, one of the things that keeps our economy strong and can help strengthen our economy through the ensuing decades is our ability to effectively and efficiently move people and goods around the state. That is a core piece of economic success for any country, any state, any location. And so the high-speed rail project is part of the future plans to make sure that we can move people and goods around the state of California efficiently, so we have that strong foundation for our economic development as we move forward. And we all know, all of us who live here in Southern California know that it is not always easy to move people and goods around the Southern California area right now. We know that there is a lot of congestion, a lot of traffic on our freeways. What we don't often think about is that there's also a lot of traffic on our railways. Our steel rails right now share both freight and passenger service, so they're each basically slowed down because they share that system with the other, and there's a need for more capacity on our steel rails. There's also a need for more capacity in our airways. Our short haul market here in Southern California, from Southern California to Northern California, is one of the busiest, if not the busiest in the country. And so in order to be able to continue to feed that interest in people flying from Northern to Southern California or vice versa, we would potentially in the future need to be adding more runways to our airports, which is certainly a big undertaking as well. And why is that? Why are we so concerned about the future based on where we're at right now? Well, number one, obviously we have existing congestion and we'd like to make it better. But number two, we know our population is going to grow. We're going to add 12 million people to the state of California over the next couple of decades. That would be literally like going over to the state of Ohio and asking everybody living in Ohio to come over here and join us in California. It's a lot of people. And so if we think that we have congestion now in all of these areas of our transportation, we need to make sure that we're planning so that as we add population to the state of California, we can continue to move people and goods around efficiently and effectively. And the other thing that we want to do in the state of California is we want to make sure that we're taking a look at the future air quality picture. And we'd like air quality to be better. We would like, especially in some of these areas of Southern California, to reduce the incidence of childhood asthma, because we would prefer not to be raising generations of children carrying around asthma inhalers. And one of the things that an all-electric high-speed rail system can do for us is it can take people who choose, and I want to be careful to say people who choose, it can take them out of a fossil fuel burning, a greenhouse gas emitting form of transportation, and it can put them on an all-electric rail system. So that can, as we move forward in the future, help us to improve our air quality, and that is a critical goal as well. And of course, to build a high-speed rail system, it is an expensive undertaking, but to build a lot of new freeway lanes, a lot of new airport runways, and a lot of new anything else that we would need to build in order to accommodate those 12 million people, it would cost a lot of money as well. So when you take a look at that overall investment, the investment in high-speed rail makes a lot of sense, but it has to be done in a sensitive manner so that as we invest those dollars, those improvements of those investments sprinkle around to our entire transportation system. Because certainly not everybody in the state in the future is probably going to ride high-speed rail. People are going to want a choice. They're going to want to have the option to still drive their car, right, or still take an airplane. And so as we invest in high-speed rail, we want to make sure that one of the things we're looking at is building transportation hubs for key population centers across the state, like the San Fernando Valley. And so that's why we've identified and we're looking at the Burbank location for a high-speed rail station, because there is an airport right there right now. There are Metrolink lines and Amtrak lines right there right now. And so we can create a transportation hub. And the impact of that hub can spur the economy of the entire San Fernando Valley, not just that particular area. And so that's one of the key things that we're looking at, that we can find ways then in this northeast part of the valley to make your transportation system here better as well. There are studies underway to take a look at building an additional track for Metrolink in the north end here of the Central Valley, or in the, in the San Fernando Valley, to make sure that we can have the passenger rail service that is appropriate for this location. There are plans to build bus rapid transit lines and potentially light rail lines that would come in and meet basically the Metrolink trains at your Metrolink station here in the northeast part of the San Fernando Valley. And these are all part of a connected transportation system. And this has been on my mind quite a lot for the last couple of weeks because I heard some remarks from Transportation Secretary Fox at a recent presentation he did at LA Union Station. And he cited a Harvard study that indicated that the single factor that most determines a person's ability to emerge from poverty is access to transportation, more so than other social factors that you would think of, like the crime rate in a particular location or the percentage of single-parent households. Access to transportation is access to a different future. And he told a really meaningful personal story about that, and I would love to provide links to that study to those of you in this community and those of you in all of our communities. Because when we take a look at transportation, it really can be transformative in terms of what it can do. I will have my team provide that. So we are building an 800-mile railroad in the state of California. That is a very, very big undertaking. It is an amazing project. It is a very complex and challenging project as well. And so you can see that high-speed rail system here, that 800 miles that we're planning in the navy blue on this slide from San Francisco to Anaheim. That's our phase 1 system. The two pieces in the yellow going from Merced to Sacramento and going from Los Angeles to San Diego are the phase 2 portions of our system. And then you can also see towards the Southern California area some dots and a lighter blue line. And that is a high-speed rail line that's being planned by other agencies right now. So there is a private agency that is planning to build a high-speed line from Victorville to Las Vegas. And LA Metro has in planning right now a high-speed rail that would connect Palmdale, where the California high-speed rail would have a station, with Victorville, where the Express West would have their westernmost station. So basically, we're forward thinking as we're looking at this project. We're building the high-speed rail system based on our 800-mile plan, but we're making sure that it can connect to future transportation plans that are ongoing right now as well, so that not only could you ride a high-speed train from Southern California to Northern California, or for instance, from Burbank to San Jose, if you had business in Silicon Valley, but you could also ride high-speed rail to Las Vegas from Southern California. And so we want to make sure that we're keeping all of our connectivity options open as we plan. So what is the foundation in terms of how we're planning this project? And again, I mentioned that it's complex and it's challenging, and it's because there are many things that we have to balance in order to be able to build this project. The first thing that we look at here in the yellow circle, the project objectives. We need to make sure, number one, the train is safe, of course. We need to make sure that the train is fast, that it can travel at over 200 miles per hour. We need to make sure that we put train stations in locations where people can access them, and we can get a lot of people to ride the train, because that's important as well. We want to make sure that this is well used. Those are the things that we're looking at in the project objective circle. We also have to look at our environmental resources. We need to protect the natural beauty of our state as we build the system. We need to make sure that we don't impact, of course, the water. We need to not impact trees. We need to not impact animals, right? Mountains, all of those types of things. We need to make sure that we're protecting those as we build the high-speed rail program. And finally, and importantly, in light blue and on the top, is the communities that the high-speed train will travel through. We need to make sure that we are protecting the communities. We understand the character of the community, and we find ways to build this train in the best possible way so that we can protect the communities. And this is very, very difficult to balance, right? The best project, what we're aiming at, is the project that balances all of these interests to arrive at the best possible route to construct for the train. And that's the process that we have undertaken and that we're in the middle of right now. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the process, because I think that it may not be well recognized that this is an evolving process. It's not a static thing. We don't show you one map and then that's it. There's no other map ever. As you can see here, through the course of time, starting in 2010, we have done studies and we have introduced route concepts to study, basically to get from the Antelope Valley to the San Fernando Valley. And in 2010, the route looked like this. And then in 2012, we added some additional components to the route based on the studies, based on community feedback that we received. In 2014, again, the routes looked different, right? They evolve. As we're able to get more data and more information on what's going on, we're able to get information from other agencies that have built projects in the area. We're able to get more information from communities about historic structures that might be in the community or historic meeting places. We look at those things and we evaluate them, and those things have us move the route around to better accommodate the conditions. And so then you can see here, basically this is what the route looked like in 2014 and in early 2014. In later 2014, we introduced this map here, and you can see that there have been some pretty significant changes when we get to this map here, because now we're looking at multiple routes basically to get from this area up here to this area down here, right? We've introduced some additional routes there to take advantage of tunneling technology evolution and other things going on. And today, in 2015, we're showing this map here, which you can see, again, looks very different than this map here in terms of the routes. And so this is really just to demonstrate that this is an evolving process. These routes evolve based on the science and the data that we're able to obtain about the ground conditions, about the types of soils that could be found in a certain location, the character of the groundwater, but they also evolve based on the community input that we receive. And so I just want to make sure that we draw your attention to that fact. So again, here is the particular route that we're showing right now. This is the particular route that we showed in late 2014, right here. And you can see the gray parts are the parts that were shown in the end of 2014. And you can see now that the colored locations are the alignments that we're showing now. And so when I click the line, you can see those earlier or the later 2014 alignments go away, and we have the current alignments as you can see them right now. And I would like to draw your attention to the fact that everything here shown in purple is a tunnel, Everything in green would be the at-grade, and then if it's blue, that would be a bridge. And so where we are today, as we go through this process, it is a very long and regimented and structured process. We basically start by identifying the fact that we're going to build an 800-mile railroad. And then we go out and we tell people that we are going to build an 800-mile railroad. And then we do studies to identify the specific routes that we would use to build that railroad. And that's the process that's demonstrated on the previous slide that started in 2010 and has been evolving since then. So we're right here in the process, as you can see at the top line. And the next steps for the process are to study those alignments that we showed on the last map in even more detail in order to produce a draft environmental document and then ultimately a final environmental document. None of these routes have been selected. None of these routes are the preferred alternative at this juncture. They all must be studied, and ultimately the preferred alternative may look different than any of the routes that we are showing you right now. And this is just a little bit more information on this portion up here, what we've been doing over the course of the last year. So again, last summer we had a series of public meetings where we talked about what our goals were, our interest in studying a full range of alternatives. We developed those alternatives. We brought them out to regulatory agencies in the communities to get feedback. We refined those routes, right? They look different now than they did at the end of 2014. And we're here again presenting them and obtaining feedback to complete a planning study, which is called an alternative analysis document. And here are the lists of studies, the relative difference between the process to do the planning and the process to complete the environmental document. You can see here that we do desktop studies as we produce route concepts for study in the environmental process. And what we are going to be doing now is we are going to be doing in-depth studies of all of those routes that we've showed you in all of these areas in order to determine basically, ultimately, what route is the best route to choose to connect Palmdale and Burbank. And so these are very detailed studies, and you can see that we're going to study environmental justice, we're going to study socioeconomic and communities, we're going to study noise and vibration, we study the seismic and the earthquake component, and we study every route. Each route is thoroughly studied in all of these areas, and each of these studies reaches a conclusion about the route. It says this route is really great in this area, or this route is not so good in this area. And then at the end of that process, you line up basically the outcome in each of these study areas for each route to determine ultimately which route is the best route to select to construct. And Genoveva, you want to talk a little more about the outreach process?
Thank you so much, Michelle. I hope you all are seeing that this is quite a project, huh? There's a lot of information that goes into making ultimately a good decision for this community area and the state. It's quite a process. The technical aspects, as Michelle reviewed, that are forthcoming in more detail on each of these alternatives will take some time. I'll review that for you. But I really want to emphasize that the planning that has been done up to now has been very community-based. So as the technical team is coming forward with these conceptual alternatives, they move and evolve, as Michelle mentioned, through community input as well. Over this last year, we've had quite a bit of this. And this has been a concerted effort by the team to go out to each of our community areas, get input locally, understand what those issues are, and bring it back to this planning table. And we've done it over a period of many meetings, large and small. We've had many open house meetings like this in a similar format. We've had our official scoping meetings. We've had smaller working group meetings where we sit at a smaller table with local representatives and leaders and have a dialogue about what their concerns are, what their worries are. It has been extremely instrumental in allowing us to get to the point where we are today. We are still hearing quite a number of people vocalizing their concerns about the program, but that's the way the process is intended to be here early, to understand what those concerns are, and for this team to listen and to move forward with more community-based and technically sound solutions. So going forward, we want to re-emphasize that we will be continuing our community involvement as these detailed studies are completed. So you will see it in a variety of formats. Other meetings like today, smaller working group meetings, continued stakeholder briefings with lots of individuals and organizations in our communities. If you are part of a community organization, a business organization, invite us to one of your community meetings so that we can talk specifically to your membership about what this project can be. The team is extremely accessible. In addition, we would like to develop some areas of creative thinking about how this program, depending on which alternative is selected, can be community-based at a very local level when it comes to aesthetics. What do bridges or sound walls look like? How are local sustainable priorities incorporated into this planning before the decisions are made? And then station area development. Each of the station areas actually present a very exciting opportunity for some local economic development ideas and community-based planning that will strengthen the community as this infrastructure is put into place. So it's really a program about the future. There's lots of opportunities with high-speed rail when it comes to economic development, jobs. Our younger generation is actually very excited about the opportunity to take another form of transportation. It opens up educational and other job opportunities throughout the state. It makes things more accessible, and it gives people a choice besides driving in your car for hours or taking an airplane that has other constraints, and gives you another choice of mobility throughout the state that we will desperately need as it continues to grow. At the same time, the authority must be mindful of a sustainable, innovative, and forward-thinking program that advances the best ideas that this state has as it addresses some very serious problems. Oops. So where we are going, I want to be specific about what you can expect. After we conclude our open house meetings in each one of our community areas, we will be, the High-Speed Rail Board of Directors will be having its monthly meeting on June 9th here in Los Angeles. This meeting is held every month throughout the state. Normally it's in Sacramento, but as the program moves throughout the state, so does its decision-making body. And we will be presenting essentially the same information that you have heard today to the board. So this project team is responsible for reporting to the board what it's heard from its communities, from our community areas, and what are the current alternatives being considered. It is not a decision point. The board will not be making a selection among these alternatives, but will be receiving an update as to which alternatives will then move forward into the specific environmental documents that Michelle talked about. During that process of the project level environmental documents, there will be ongoing community engagement. So again, please invite us to your monthly meetings of the chamber or community groups or school associations. We will be conducting our own small and large meetings as well as new information is revealed, and we would like this to be an ongoing dialogue with each of our communities. Specifically, it'll take about a year for this draft environmental document to be produced. It's a voluminous document. It's large. It has all those studies that Michelle talked about in great detail on each of the alternatives. It's quite comprehensive. There's always an executive summary so that it's understood a little bit more easily. But this is the document that we very much would want formal comment from our communities in writing or orally. And we will hold public hearings where as much time as needed will be taken for folks to weigh in specifically, now that all the detail is known, what your opinions are about the program. That then will move into another year of responding to those comments, and it will be produced about a year later in the summer of 2017, where the final environmental document will be presented, and it's at that point that a single alternative can be recommended after hearing the input, after doing the studies, and it can move forward with a single alternative. What I'd like to do now is just indicate to you, and we understand how difficult this program is, but again, how exciting the opportunity is to invest into a new form of infrastructure for this state, to keep it strong, to keep our community solid, to allow accessibility to opportunities. At the same time, keep in mind that we are investing in our communities across the board. Going forward, please stay involved with us. You have the handout that we passed out, which has all of our contact information. It's repeated here on the screen. If you signed in and gave us either your email address or your mailing address, you'll be noticed of all of our future meetings. Please stay involved and continue working with us on the Palmdale to Burbank section. Thank you so much.